sky's not blue.
You need to understand that when the time comes, I'm going to be taking over.
Welcome back to the Cult House Podcast. I'm your host, the Scholar of Spite and the Saturday Night Delight, Roger Riddell. Joining me today, he is the vocalist for Chicago noise rockers Something Is Waiting, and also the scourge of the Chicago metal scene, Eddie Gobbo. How you doing today, Eddie?
Hey! What's up? Good to see you, brother.
Yeah. No, I was just thinking about this earlier. You all have your third album, Absolutely Something Is Waiting, coming out soon, and it crossed my mind that this might be the longest you've gone without getting fired from a band.
I know. Yeah, I can't believe I'm still in this band. Wow. You know what? Those are famous last words, though. I'm still in the band, and I think they're at least going to go through one more cycle with me. So
That almost sounds.
I made a point of this time starting to show up for practice more, at least, be within 20 minutes late, own my own gear. So yeah, these are all good things, you know?
Yeah, like it almost a minute ago, it sounded like two different potential song titles. I'm still in the band, and I can't believe I'm still in this band.
You know, what's this?
I
though,
can't
too,
believe
is-
something is waiting.
I know. There is a huge, sorry, I'm getting positioned. Obviously, fans of this show, I positioned myself in front of these amazing silkscreen posters in my bunker in Evanston, Illinois for you. I hope you appreciate that. But yeah, our band, the members in it are all on that tip of not being the easiest to deal with. That's not some type of fictional moniker we made up. And it's almost like our band from the jump has been the island of lost toys. The people who can't really fit anywhere, but fit with each other. So here we are, this is the first band. Oh my God, come to think of it, this is the first band I've ever been in that has 3 albums out. It's always 2 and done, man.
Yeah, I mean, how much of that do you attribute to the fact that your bassist is currently an effects pedal?
Yeah. Well, actually, one of our computers left recently. He's because we had to evolve to a different one. So that was a technology joke. Okay, I get what you're saying, but I will say this, which is we started out as a 5-piece, and I believe we were still maybe a 5-piece the last time we had an interview together. And first of all, congratulations. I think your first podcast was 2 years ago.
Yeah.
You're
You're
killing
the
it.
first guest.
I know. And I think I'm still probably the most watched guest. I have a tendency to do podcasts where I just let it, fly. And that's not always good for me. But I will say this, which is our 2 members that started the band with us was Pete Grossman, who was our engineer, and Eddie Limperis, who is our bassist, or was our bassist. And Pete Grossman played guitar with us. But those dudes are still like part of our band. The only reason that they're not doing is because we have this schedule which is only conducive to the lives of the people who have nothing going on. We play shows on weeknights. We don't have anything to get up to in the morning if we don't want it. Pete Grossman is is a dad with 2 kids, and I love playing with him so much. But he engineered our new record that you just mentioned, start to finish. He mixed it, he mastered it, and we don't get the sound that we have without him, certainly, even to this stage. So he definitely still works with us. So we must have some type of a good relationship with him if that's the case. You'll have to talk with him about that. And Eddie Limperis did the art layout for our new LP. And I think the reason he parted ways with the band once upon a time was he is in a band that is outstanding called Baron Air. Actually, our drummer, Aiden Alexander, just went to go see them on Saturday night at Sub T. He said they were killer. He was kind of looking to take that band to the next level. And he had spent time, he was the youngest member of the band. He had spent time under all our learning trees. Myself, Iden, Pete Grossman, and he was ready to kind of lead his own band to a certain area. And we said, God bless, man. And he's still a dear friend of ours. So I will say, anyone who's been in Something Is Waiting, I don't know why. We all have a great relationship with them. And the people who are still in it, you know, those that know. Those that know how we deal with being in a band, in the practice space, writing songs, all these things, it's not the easiest, you know, experience. And if you know that going in, then there seems to be a lack of feather ruffling as far as the band's trajectory getting halted.
Yeah, I mean, the upside of that too is that you have to do less Tetris with the van after the show when you're loading out, because you've got like probably not as much equipment as you otherwise would have.
We had at one point less equipment, and then William Thomas Fay, our guitarist and bassist now, started adding shit, and now our van's packed again. And then I don't really I have a tendency to not arise at the right time when we're reloading the van. So a post Something Is Waiting show usually unfolds with me drinking and then me getting dragged out and then getting yelled at and us packing the van super, super tight and eventually us getting to the next gig. But we do have a lot of gear still at this point. And I think that we might be able to get rid of some stuff soon, but we sure do have a packed band with 2-3 people. We have enough gear for a 5-piece, but we're a 3-piece.
Yeah, I mean, I've reloaded it a few times after the shows.
Yeah, you know.
Yeah.
We always try to do the friend ride home thing for a help. We'll always take that. And that goes to anyone listening to this who's a friend of ours. If you need a ride, whatever, you got one if you want to give us a hand for sure. And that's yes, I'm totally down with that.
Yeah, so the new album, well, actually, this just reminded me of something with the bass being the effects pedal. I don't know if I ever told you this before, but when I was in high school, I always thought it would be funny to start a band with a drum machine as the drummer and just credit the drums to Roland. But I found out eventually that like Big Black did that apparently already.
Hilarious.
Yeah.
And then also it's super funny because I'm not able to give it justice. Okay. People still come up to me this day and say, what's up with Will's rig? And I go, Bill's got his own thing going on. I know the broad strokes of it, but our bassist isn't really an effects pedal. Bill runs through a bass cab simultaneously and plays the riff. So if you're seeing him play it, it is indeed Bill playing the riff. That being said, he rips into solos and a bunch of stuff, and that's where at some type of an interface would come in. But I always, dude, you have no idea when we're playing shows how many people say, hey, let me just talk to you about that rig real quick. I go, I don't know what's going on. I know nothing about it. I've tried to learn things. I'm picking up bits and pieces of it, but that dude is really onto something, and if you find an example of someone who's doing it and then that evolve of the state, you let me know, meaning the person watching this right now, DM us. But it's pretty evolved. And I've seen bands that come dance around what he's doing, but he kind of wrote his own book, which is cool.
Yeah. Yeah, so the new album, Absolutely Something Is Waiting, that comes out in August. What's the actual release date? I know the album release show is August 3rd.
No, it's August 14th is the record release show.
Oh, okay.
It would have been funny if I let you believe it was August 3rd and then you showed up to it. August 14th. If you're in Chicago listening to this, it's at Empty Bottle. It's a free Monday. So there's no incentive for you not to be there other than it being a school night. We're only playing with one other band. They're a band that we love called Coat Goat. They've been around for a long time. They're outstanding. And they haven't played Chicago in a while. So we're really excited to be there with them. Our friend Chris Rue, who's in an amazing band called These Beasts, is DJing it. And he's actually going old school with it and doing LPs from what I heard. If he shows up with an iPad or whatever, then I'm sorry. But he did tell me straight up he's bringing LPs. So I'll take his word for it. But it's going to be an easy, digestible show on a Monday. And then actually our record, obviously, if you were to come to the record release show, you'll be able to buy the LP there. The pre-sale, by the time we're doing this interview, will be live for the record, I assume. And there's the actual record release date is August 18th, which is that following Friday.
Oh, okay.
And that's when you'll be able to get it all the ways that are the nice ways to steal it, like Spotify, Apple Music. It'll be that day. But other than that, it's that week. That's Something Is Waiting week.
Yeah. See, I still don't have a physical copy of the last album because I'm still a CD person, and that one never did CD.
Never. And I will say this, which is we will be getting CDs made, I believe, for this one. Maybe we'll make some for that one too, especially since we're running low on the vinyls at this point for sure. I don't even know if we have much left at all. But listen, if you go on the road with CDs, there are so few people that don't that ask for them to begin with.
Yeah.
That just takes up space. And then also, we're a band that anyone who sees us, particularly when we go out of town, they know that we travel with a lot of merch. And there's a reason for that, which is we like to think our merch, God bless our fans, because our merch, I know the merch game pretty well. I'll just leave it at that. But when it comes down to it, our merch numbers are so outstanding for being a band the size we are. And it's the best thing in the world. So when we go to a city, especially, we've been playing a lot of out of town gigs recently. We like to bring a lot of options for people because sometimes this sounds so fucking stupid, but I get it, which is, say you and 3 of your friends go to a gig. Our shirts are so, they stick out like sore thumbs that you're not going to want to buy the same shirt as your friend. So we need to kind of have a lot of styles. And if we don't, then we're going to probably be selling one less shirt at least, or they're going to be fighting over which person can have this shirt. My favorite though is when there's like the couple comes up and they're like, "No, I want that shirt. No, I want," and they're fighting over it. But that ultimately translates to we're not bringing around fucking CDs or tapes for that matter. You never know though. With this one, we might, and then obviously if you wanted a digital copy or something, you buy a digital version on, Apple Music or any other shit to be able to, Jurassic Park mode, by the way.
The couple fighting over what shirt to get, that's
Sure.
like merch husband.
Nah. The wife always gets the way.
Yeah.
He's like, "No, that's my shirt. It's my fucking shirt." I will say this too, and I'm very, very proud of it. Our female demographic of fans are the best. It's probably the way we sound that really gets them to the dance, because no pun intended. We have a swing to us, what we do. And I kind of like the fact that you and I both know, going to metal shows forever, that it's a boys club. And it's not only that, it's like it's such a dudes club that it's almost like unwelcoming if a girl a lot of times were to go into it, but not at our gigs. And I'm very proud of that. And we did not set out to be that way. You could see a band like the big bands now, like Bring Me the Horizon or whatever. You could say, all right, they kind of wanted to sound that way in order to get women at their shows, because with women go men, obviously. That's like kind of the business strategy behind it. We didn't set out that way. It's just that people kind of gravitate towards it. So we love that.
Yeah. And I think it depends on the subgenre too, because like death metal shows, it's definitely a lot of just like sweaty, hairy dudes.
Yep.
Black metal, I know there's a lot of like goth girls that show up to that.
Sure.
Doom metal, you probably get like some more goth girls here and there. So I think it all just kind of varies on the subgenre, but like there's definitely more women at like post-hardcore and noise and things like that.
Sure. I also think our fans, just in general, they are in a way kind of fans that they never got out of music, but they're kind of fans that time, as far as the taste go, that time forgot a little bit. There are people that still hold those grunge records very close to their hearts, that love the 90s group shit, that have very few guilty pleasures. They love Kiss. They're not afraid to admit it. And they love new metal. And if you're already going in with that mentality, you're going to like our band a lot, because we don't give a fuck as much, if not more.
Yeah.
And I think so many bands, not speaking out of school, they give a fuck about what they're trying to avoid sounding like, because it might seem throwbacky. It might seem, the main thing is this, which is they're trying to fit with a demographic in order to go to the front of a fucking line. If there's already a movement that's happening, it's let's jump on that coattail, and we'll be able to open up for these bands when they come through. We won't have to carve our own niche. And we've always been a band. We never even said it once, but it just happened organically, where we'd rather die on our feet than live on our knees with that shit. I don't want to sound like any other band. I'd rather play a show that is more focused around like what would be kind of a local type show that's at a good club. And we're going to be able to play for probably a fraction of the people than we would open up for whatever the big band is coming through Reggie's. But it was funny because once we had that mentality and we started kind of doing it, we started to see that those shows started to come to us a little bit. And everyone's would find the bands that would kind of fit with us, and they'd be like, yeah, you guys should play that, or that'd be rad. And this past year, we played with I Hate God, we played with Matt Pike. We played with, I want to say, definitely a couple other bigger touring bands. And then there was bands that we play with that come through town that are more like friends of ours. A great example would be Child Bite, we just played with, who Child Bite right now, they're our favorite band, and basically they just do everything right. They're so good. And I'm saying that because we actually have a lot of favorite bands, but they're definitely up there, and they're going on tour with Pantera right now.
Yeah.
So they are a band that, will brush shoulders with us at a club, and they're about to do an arena tour or a shed tour, and that's fucking outstanding. And that band's the shit. Another band that's doing some part of that run is a band called Snafu. We play with those dudes at Cobra Lounge. They're great. So it's cool, but like we'd rather just keep our own sound, and we're not a band that lives and dies by opening up for whatever the Reggie's tour is.
Sure.
And all those are cool shows, don't get me wrong, but it's usually the band opening up a show that's a package bill. They're getting 30 minutes after doors open, and then see you later. So we're not necessarily about that, and if we were, then we wouldn't be in it for the right reasons, which is kind of creating our own sound. Like I say, we would just be looking to get out of the house.
Yeah, because I know there's like the handful of local bands that like pretty much play the same bar or two like every time, but you guys do like, there's 4 or 5 different clubs around the city that you all play regularly.
There is just thought of another. We played with Macabre recently.
Yeah.
It was end of last summer, actually. First of all, Macabre's a band that wrote their own book, and they still doing it, still outstanding. We have been fans of that band for a long time. I remember Ida and I's old band played with them when, I think I was 16 at the Metro. I think it was around that age, maybe 17. And we were going out to play with them at a place called Brower House in the Burbs. All right. And everyone's like, wow, Macabre, you guys and Macabre and the Burbs, like that's going to be a hard sell. That's going to be a weird crowd. That's going to be, you're going to be dealing with these metal fans that don't know what city heavy metal is. They're trapped in they're in an alternate universe. And we go, we don't give a fuck. We're going out there. We're going to fucking kill it. And if you're down, we're down. See you there. And then what happened was that show was great. There was a lot of people there. I definitely remember that people were texting me and saying, hey, we're trying to get into this club, and they have a line outside the door, and they're not letting us in. Like they push back doors like not 2.5, probably about an hour and a half for sure. And then finally everyone got in, and it was a great show. And then we couldn't find who was supposed to pay us at the end of the night, and I don't think we ever got money, and that was it. So it was a great experience all around. Whatever.
Yeah. No.
What I just said is actually very important because it is true that we didn't get paid for that show. But I will say this, which is what I just summed up is the experience of a band that I think, we were worthy to be up there. I think we played fucking great and we went over super well at that show, and we wouldn't be opening for Macabre. We had like direct support for them. We wouldn't be opening for Macabre. We didn't deserve it. But so many bands they're crybabies. It's if you don't get the right amount of money, or if a sound guy yells at you, or someone like looks at you the wrong way, or the load is uncomfortable, or God knows what, there's going to be complaints and there's going to be sadness, and we don't give a fuck. Like, it's about going there and doing it. We would prefer having a nice experience at a club, but guess what? We know what it's like to have a horrible experience at a club, and dealing with Macabre and their show at Brower House and not getting paid or not finding the guy to pay us, that was not the end of the world. Yeah. We've seen way worse.
Like in Macabre, like just you bringing them up, they're a band that I'm kind of surprised that they haven't had more of. They've got like a really strong cult following, but I'm surprised that it didn't get bigger over like the last decade with the rise of like true crime obsession, because you would think that there'd be like a wave of like additional interest in a band that writes songs exclusively about serial killers.
You're spot on. I don't know how to describe it. I totally back what you're saying, though. I think one of the things that has very few things have hindered Macabre, but one thing as a fan that I want more from them is newer material.
Yeah.
And every time they put out a new record, I am so stoked on it. But that band has been around for I want to say 40 years. I don't even know. They were, yes, about 40 years, and we only have a small amount. And also, they do take breaks. I don't know what their everyday lives are. By the way, those guys are really great. They're really chill to be around. They've been the same dude since when we met them when we were 18, and we were pseudo starstruck by them. And they're so nice. They know what they're doing. They're an outstanding band. But I'm a person who, when it comes to music, this is like, if anyone's a basketball fan out there, the Allen Iverson line, who I look up to a lot. He's actually the basketball player I probably look up to the most, but he has a line where he was referring to being benched or not being a starter. And then he said, if I'm sitting, I'm quitting. And that's what it is with our band, at least today, which is we have shows all the time. We're always doing something. We're always pushing the ball up the cliff. And this record's about to come out, or just dropped whenever this thing's airing. And we have an agenda of writing sooner than later and getting more stuff out there. And one thing I will say is this, which is there are a lot of bands, a band like Guided by Voices, if anyone's listens to them out there, it comes to mind, which is they have a surplus of records. They have countless records. But they are a band that's quantity, not quality. So they have gems on each of these records, and some are just completely shit. We're trying to do both. We're trying to have great songs that sound undeniably like us. That's kind of the crux of the album title, frankly. Like, if you listen to our record, which you will, you might have heard that one track we just dropped, but we are a band that really is holds to our own sound, and you can't mistake it for anyone. At least we think you can. But the key is to not bask in it. It's easy to just regurgitate the same fucking set list to a slew of fans on the same stages and then dust it off when it's convenient for you. But we kind of find that disrespectful to the fans in a way.
Yeah.
If they're interested in your band, show them what's up. And if you can't show them what's up, then apparently you should be quitting. Because if you're sitting, you're quitting.
That's kind of along the same lines as something that I've heard. I might have heard Phil Anselmo say it before, and I think I've heard one of the guitarists from Dimmu Borgir, like back in 2005 or 2004 in a Revolver interview. Like I've heard both of those guys talk about side projects before, and just like not just side projects, but starting a new band today. And it's like, why would you want to have a side project that sounds like your main band? And then why if you were a new band that's starting today, why would you want to start out comparing yourselves to someone else's sound? And it always kind of also reminds me of back in the MySpace days. Do you remember like back then you would randomly get like these cold messages from bands that were trying to promote their stuff, and their messages would always say something that was like, we're the new Metallica or we're the new Pantera. And it's like, okay, but that I've already got a Metallica. I've already got a Pantera. Like, what else? What else are you bringing? Like, I don't need a new one.
Totally get that.
Yeah.
One, this is the first time in our band's existence where, and it's been like this for a while, we have no side projects. And that's not a knock on everything we've done in the past, because every band these dudes have touched, and myself included, are valid. They are good bands, and some of them are still rolling, and that's commendable. But I did see that when we started to really sense that we were onto something with this band, then it went from, what are we doing next week? You know, do we have practice? Do we have shows? Do we have this and this? To like, what are we doing tomorrow? And not necessarily us getting into a damn practice space, but what do we have to do in order to keep this band? This is what happens when a band has a life of its own at one point. It's not about any of us anymore. It's really just about keeping it rolling positively. We thought it was a fucking blessing that you have no idea, man, how many bands didn't survive the pandemic, just in general, not in Chicago, but just in general, or are still picking up the scraps. So when we said we're still here, we think we're a better band post-pandemic. The answer is we're lucky to fucking be here, that the stars aligned and no one, maybe even went as far as to get physically sick, injured, whatever, blah, blah, blah. We're still here. Let's do it. As far as side projects go, I respect a guy like Phil Anselmo's side projects, because Superjoint and Down sound nothing like Pantera. And by the way, those two bands I just mentioned, they don't sound anything like any other band.
Yeah.
Now maybe people have ripped off Down. Superjoint, not really. I love Superjoint, and those were game-changing records. They're both the first two Superjoints and the first three-ish Downs, when it had that core lineup together, they're unreal. No one could touch the first Down record. It's the best supergroup record of all time. And anyone, dude, I'm a Velvet Revolver fan too. So when you listen to when the first Velvet Revolver is pretty up there, but man, that record is outstanding. And but yeah, I totally back what Phil and people like that say. But the other thing too is, as people in bands, you realize what it takes to get what we refer to, or at least I refer to, as the show on on stage. And there's a lot that goes into it. Writing the songs, having the merch ready, going to the gig, unloading, loading onto the stage, talking with a million people, flyering. It's all time. So if you're going to do it, you better make sure you're doing it for something you want to be in, or that makes sense for it to be in, not just because you can. I get offered to be in bands all the fucking time. And yeah. I think my main band, if I were to start one somewhere down the line, would be a solo project where literally I'd be doing something DJ related, honestly, and would be totally departure. Anyone who knows a guy like Venetian Snares knows what I'm talking about, but I have a little bit of a DJ culture outside of Something's Waiting, because I DJ a lot, and there's a little bit of crossover I can see there. But as of now, and probably for a long time, I'm all about this project. I think too much about music, and here's the other thing too. I'm at a really good place with songwriting right now, so there's not really time to get distracted with trying to do other shit, start new projects necessarily,
Yeah. So with the new song that just came out, House of Style, the first thing that I thought when I listened to that, just at the beginning with the samples, and I know that you're a big Rob Zombie guy just to begin with, but it reminded me of Electric Head Part 1.
Yeah, so let me think of how that starts. Okay, yeah. I will say this, which is, I am a big Rob Zombie guy, and then I don't see that much. If it reminded you of it, that's great.
Yeah.
It's definitely not.
I'm not saying it was intentional. I'm saying that it's more just like that was the vibe that I picked up.
I'm very stoked to hear anyone compare anything that we do to White Zombie or Rob Zombie. We are a band that I'm very proud of this, because it happens we didn't go out of our way to do this. But if you ask everyone in our band, there's 3 members, our 10 favorite bands, I don't think there's going to be one that matches up. Maybe somewhere there's a staple like a Metallica or something where everything rap is, that's a given. You know, we're a heavy metal fan. We're fans first and foremost, but it doesn't really add up. And if you have 30 main influences, you're probably going to get something which is original. And most people don't. Most bands don't. But also, when we were onto something with a distinct sound, we said, that's us. And now we know what it is. We just have to go straight ahead with that and put it on as much steroids as we can. No deviating away from it. No, this sound is going to change. This, and this. Not about us. But like, I'm glad that there's that little comparison there. Everyone knows I'm Mr. Rob Zombie, though. I'm still a monstrous fan of that guy.
Yeah. I mean, like, I got a little bit of that vibe, and then I also kind of got the vibe of like, so when you were in Jarred Loose with Jarred Loose Turns 13, like
Sure.
that was where you all really hit your stride. And
Probably.
the House of Style also kind of just like, it reminded me of the first time that I listened to Turns 13 and heard The Light Took Us for the first time. Like,
Sure.
it was just like the whole vibe of just like a real banger of like a first song.
Thanks. This, man, and I understand why, because no one's heard the full LP yet, but if you like that, you're in store for something. This record it's going to be probably the best record that comes out of this year, definitely out of Chicago. And I'm not ripping out, the bands are so good right now. I'm just saying what happened was not a perfect storm. It's just us finding the first 2 LPs that Something Is Waiting released were us essentially doing the following, which is we had discovering our sound and then putting together what would be, in our estimation, tracks that would fuel a brutal 40-minute set on stage. All right. And we damn sure did that. And we were able to jumble songs. So when you would come see our band play, it either out of state, in state, whatever, it wouldn't necessarily be the same set list, but it would be high octane the whole way through. And every song made sense. It would be some song that was worth it, that still fit the vibe, and outstanding. And then there were some staples that we never really deviated away from playing. Lost in Space is a good one. We always play your intro song, which is, I believe, Hippies Became Lawyers. The song Cult House is played a lot. But besides that, we jumble around a lot. And then that's what those 2 records did. This one was mainly meant to say, all right, we want to do a really thought out record, but at the same time, not reinvent the wheel. And when you're cooking with a lot of confidence and you know what you're working with, what works, what doesn't, that's when you could become really dangerous as a band, because you know what works. There's a blueprint in front of you and there's no questions now. And most of the stuff that I'm talking to you about right now, it's almost like you're getting out of me like you're a therapist or something, because we never talk about this shit in a practice space setting. We're concerned about what the fuck we're doing. But you have no idea how many people, since we started the band 6 years ago, have said, particularly early on shit, you got to stay in your lane. You're going too all over the place, or we don't know what you're doing. Or some people would come up and say, hey, guess what? I know what you're doing. I think you shouldn't do it. And I go, well, what is it we're doing? And then they would say something and I go, that makes no fucking sense. You don't know what we're doing. And they go, oh, okay. They would say something very primitive. They'd be like, you guys are trying to sound like Nirvana Bleach. I go, we sound nothing like that. And then they'd be like, well, I don't know. And I go, I don't know either. There was a couple early on people that were bigger kind of record label individuals, and they were wrapped up in us a little bit, and they weren't necessarily looking to sign us, but one definitely said to us, probably around the time that we were doing the demos or pre-production or whatever it would be for what would be the last record, Songs for the Sally Beauty Pavilion, you're going too far with this. It's not, you got to reel it in. This is getting too far fucking out there. And this is not going to work in your favor. Ultimately, what that person was trying to say is, there's not a demographic for you, therefore it's going to be a hard fucking sell. If Decibel or whatever, or Revolver or whatnot is pushing doom metal, black metal, or whatever at the time, your best options to fit into that cog so you could be in the magazine too. If they put you in the magazine and say, this is from out of left fucking field, there's no way for them to follow it up. That's why bands like Nirvana, though being phenomenal, one of the best bands of all time, they had a litany of bands behind them, an army of bands that all sounded similar. So when Nirvana couldn't come from the Spin cover the next month, Alice in Chains took it over. Or maybe they got a band like Melvins to have a big article in it. And it just all made sense. We don't make sense with anything. And it was the only people that believed in it. It started out with the people in the room. And then it started out with what would be our core fan base that we always showed respect. We'll get to them in a second. But then we started working with a label like Learning Curve Records, who Reiner, their label head, couldn't understand us more, or he couldn't be more supportive of what we put out there. He's never saying, he works with a lot of straight up noise rock bands. We just played a fest out in Minneapolis called Caterwaull, amazing fest. And they had some genre bending bands for sure. But, you'll get some bands that are just your traditional noise rock. And we're down with those bands. We love it. But we're not traditional noise rock by any stretch. We are a heavy dose of heavy metal. We're almost too heavy metal for a lot of noise rock fans. At the same time, when you bring us to the metal show, we're not enough metal for them. It sucks. But if you believe in it enough, then eventually you're cracking an egg and that yolk's going to spread out. And it's going to start touching people. And then when you say they've done it 3 times over and they're getting better at it, then you're either in on it or you're not. And sometimes, and we're never going to win some people over. I get it. But we don't want to win those people over. They're probably closed-minded music fans to begin with heavy music. They don't get it. And we don't want them to get it. We don't care. But if getting back to the fans, it's the number one fucking thing we do in this band is the rule is, at least from where I come from, is don't make your fans look like fucking idiots. Because so many bands are copacetic doing that these days, where it's, hey, you bought the last record, you bought the t-shirt, you're championing us around your city. Maybe you're having a band that you're starting that kind of sounds like us. You want to play with us when we come through, cool. But ultimately, one day, we're going to fucking fail your ass. We're going to flake out on something. We're going to not show up. We're going to rub you the wrong way. We're going to come to your city. We're a very approachable band. And we're going to come to your city. And what about the bands that come to your city and fucking hide in a dressing room? And it's like, dude, there's 70 people at the show. Do you really need to hide in a dress? Like, I mean, what are you hiding from? I don't feel like talking to people. Well, neither do I sometimes. But actually, when I start talking with people, I'm very copacetic with being verbose, and especially when it's people that I have a common ground with. And it's not talking about just them being at my show. It's like, hey, you're wearing a Austin 316 shirt. I want to say what's up to you. What do you think you're wrestling? And then before you know it, we're talking for 20 minutes. And then maybe we have a relationship that exists outside of music because of that. But, bands start with cutting those corners and being too cool for school with that shit. If there's any band that should be too cool for school, it's technically us, because we have paid our dues. We went to the school of hard knocks, metaphorically speaking, with this shit. We're confident in what we do. But we're not. We're very, very approachable, and we have a hell of a lot of respect for our fans. We're not even getting to the next tier, dude, which is obviously something that's rampant these days, of bands doing fucking asinine shit and using their powers for bad, and then fucking getting canceled. And then, wow, they're my favorite band for 12 years, and now I have to burn all their merch, and now I can't talk about them for the rest of my fucking life. That's real nice. It's really respectful to your fan base. All because you wanted to flirt with some girl or whatever, you wanted to steal from someone and make a quick $45. Like, it's like, you're a pathetic fucking asshole to do that. And the funny thing is this,
that's a true Chicago story too, though.
Yeah, I mean, like, listen, I'll tell you this, I'll tell you this straight the fuck up, which is a band. We all know that a band like Knock Missium, Chicago staples, burned every bridge. And it was some members. There's some members of Knock Missium I definitely like as people. All right. Because they had 25 members. All right. Most I thought were fucking idiots. And, or I didn't really have much of an opinion on them. But I will say this, which is those records, this is the hilarious thing about them, which is they haven't really aged well. I look back and some of the shit whoops ass, do not get me wrong. But it was really what's called the right band at the right fucking time. I don't know if I mentioned this before because it kind of just popped in my head, but when we started our band, we were the wrong band at the wrong time. It was such a sea change, and they just said, we're not going, we don't know what direction we're going in, but it's definitely not your direction. Okay. When it was Knock Mystium time, it was, we know what you're doing. We're definitely going that direction, which is new wave of American black metal. And you're at the best city for it, which is Chicago. All right. It was cooler than Brooklyn, or just as cool. And let's go. Let's fucking get it on. But they proceeded to act as they did, but most of the shit doesn't hold up. And it's funny because you see a fest like Maryland Death Fest that's happening again this coming year. It's a reunion band fest. That's all it is. And that's what's really not holding down, but like that's what's saturating the market right now is reunion tours. Bands get back together for 20-year breaks. That's totally cool. No one's going to call upon Knock Mystium to get back together. All due respect to Blake and those dudes, is because you listen to that catalog and it's very hit, and then 4 songs and an interlude that kind of don't hold up, and then maybe something cool. It was just the right band at the right time.
Yeah.
You know? So not to rip on them, but I'm just calling it right down the middle. And listen, here's the funny thing, which is if you're fucking going to try to pull my card, not you, but anyone wants to pull my card with saying, well, sucks you rip on that band. Do you ever give them a chance? I fucking saw them 20 times live, man. And I listened to all their records backward and fucking forward. I'm going to let you in on a little secret, which is most people in bands don't listen to music. They're like, yeah, I saw you guys play live. And it's like, okay, cool. Well, did you watch it? It's like, no, I caught a couple songs, which means they caught half a song. Okay. Did you hear the record? No, I haven't got around to it yet. What's the holdup? Oh, you have to listen to the same album you listen to every day for the last 20 years again today. Well, yeah, it's cool. Like, it's not cool. Like, you don't listen to music. And a lot of people that were the fans of Knock Mystium, I don't even know if they were listening to those records that closely. They were just one, and I understood why. It was a cool vibe. You know, that was a cool time for music, and they were definitely at the forefront of it, you know. But I was there. I saw all that shit. It just, you know, doesn't hold up well. But you never know. I mean, maybe they could come out. Maybe they come out again and put out a new record. That'd be great.
You know, I mean, the thing that you said a minute ago about, you know, I guess sort of the pressure to like stay in your own lane and like not be too like weird or out there, but
sure.
Chicago, like going back, I mean, all the way back to like Master and then to something like Wax Tracks and, you know, anything else that's come out of the city. There's a long kind of history of heavy music in this city kind of bucking whatever the trend was at the time, you know?
Yeah, I know. And then this is the thing that sucks, is a lot of people, you know, you're a smart journalist. I would think I think you hit the nail on the fucking head. But a lot of people use that as kind of a calling card to say Chicago does that. Once they do that, they back up, and it's more about, it's all talk. They don't bend anything.
Yeah.
They're doing what is fucking cookie cutter and expected. And the bands that do, I'm like, they know who they are because I go to their shows. They're the shit. I can name some. I'll leave someone out, and then someone will be like, oh, Eddie thinks we're a shitty band. But for the most part, I think the majority of bands in our city there's a lot of good ones. And the ones that we play with for sure, that's another thing too, which is, to be honest with you, there's a lot of, it's a front person thing, but there's a lot of bands in the city that don't want to play with, I know it sounds weird, they don't want to play with good bands. They want to play with bands that they blow off the fucking stage. They're afraid of good bands because they're fucking crybabies and they're fucking bitches. And when it comes down to it, talk to those dudes and listen, those guys in my band, they're motherfuckers. They're good at what they do. You can analyze, or whoever listens to this new LP, you tell me if I'm good at what I do, all right? But we're not afraid of fucking anyone. We want to play with good bands. And it's not a contest. We want to be blown away by a band. When we see a band like These Beasts and we play a gig with them, we're like, you're the shit. And we love what you're doing. And there's so many bands out there where I'm like, oh, this band is so fucking good. I want to play with them. Then there's some bands where they're holding on to some semblance of being a good band. They're probably a good band, or maybe they just were at, a kind of little ahead of the game. They've been around for a while. Their goal is to play with shitty bands. And then when they sense something like Something Is Waiting or a good band coming up, they're like, yeah, I kind of know you guys. Yeah, whatever. Because if once they start listening to it, they can't go back. They're like, oh, like that band's good. And now I might need to try harder with songwriting, try to get my band's record sounding good. We might need to come to one or more practices in a week. We might need to have a practice that's like a sober practice, where we don't just pound beers and smoke weed. And that's intimidating to them. They'd rather not do that. So we want to be able to do that. We want to be able to say this band's pushing us, and they're great. And believe me, when we the best though is when we play out of town gigs. We're so lucky, man. When we play out of town gigs, there are so many bands that are gems that we usually scout them out on the front end, where we're like, we would like to play with you, and they'd be like, we would love to play with you, and then we play with them, and it all goes great because they are great. And usually the bands that are really, really good are great people as well, and that they go hand in hand because they can't push envelopes musically without being people that are humble, frankly, because that's what it all comes down to. If you're trying something, you're saying, give me a fucking shot, right? And it's going to not be whatever. It's hard to just be like, fuck you, fuck the world, that'll thing. Occasionally that works, but not these days, where you got to come in with a little bit of, you got to give us a shot, dude. But if you give us a shot, once we're in, I think. And that's what's, I'm really proud of that fact. But yeah, we're not, and especially as a front person, I mean, the second I start avoiding bands or whatever to fit my own demographic or want to dumb down our live show with who we play with, there's no point in us being in a band. It's pathetic.
Yeah. So Lost in Space off of Sally Beauty Pavilion, that is featured in a movie now.
Sure.
How did that happen?
Crusades is the name of the film. It was, we were approached by the director who, sorry, I just got a text from someone. My cousin's the director. So he had an idea for a film, and he goes, I need to set a tone for this one scene in particular, which was them raging in a garage. And I go, totally, like use the song. Everyone knew that it was going to get used. And then what happened was, it didn't surprise me, because when he started to cast the film, he was saying to me something to the effect of, I'm starting to get big people in this film. And I'm like, He named this dude named Rudy Pankow, who I've never heard of before in my life. I thought he said Mancow at first. And I was like, yeah, Mancow's a hit. That's fucking awesome. But he's apparently a big deal. And I'm not saying this in a weird way, like I'm trying to sound aloof to it, but I don't know newer actors. I really don't. All right. And he got like a handful of very popular younger actors. And then the film got fucking picked up and got what's called limited release and is now on Amazon, and good for him. I mean, that's fucking phenomenal. It's obviously, you and I talk about film a lot. It's a shame that it's going that way with the whole streaming thing. But dude, when you see Renfield drop, which was a major motion picture featuring Nicolas Cage, and it's direct to like streaming that day, that's the way it's going. And I'm just happy that it got a film release, because I saw it in the theater and I was like, oh, this is rad as fuck. At least it got that, breath for a minute. And I think it's in LA right now. If you're in LA watching this, I think it's out there. A couple other states. You have to check it. I don't know. But yeah, that's how it came about. So we were stoked. Yeah.
Yeah. So you mentioned the merch, and that's something that when I had Stavros on the show a couple years ago, he designs a lot of your merch, and we ran through, because I've got like every one of the t-shirts. We ran through each of them to just kind of like talk about which ones we could figure out the joke on and which ones we just thought didn't make sense at all. But like, what goes into an Eddie Gobbo t-shirt design idea?
Sure. First of all, it is Stavros is our puss head. He just is. All right. And Metallica, you'll get the reference. Stavros and I are tight. Our band, Bill and Aiden Alexander, we all go over every shirt and spitball prior to us feeding it to Stavros. because there are some shirts that get squashed in the womb because it's too out there. Some of them, usually the ones that get squashed, are ones that take it too far. And there's a couple that, looking back, I'm like, oh, that was really aggressive. If you think we're an envelope pushing band, the answer is yes, we are. But we actually hall monitor ourselves, because we make one mistake. We don't want, this is the main thing, dude. We don't have time to fucking explain to everyone the joke or the tongue in cheekness, da 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 da. They're going to take it for face value. And then once that decision's made up, you're done. So we really need to monitor ourselves. What goes into it, first and foremost, is all our shirts are takes off of or tributes to bands that we like, that inspire us. And there's always going to be a band reference, maybe a film or some type of artistic reference that preceded us in that shirt. There's going to be obscure references that will get lost. There will be, in your average shirt, I mean, there's going to be 6 Easter eggs, man, that you're not even, you are probably missed some. And some of the best fans will come up to us and be like, I bought this shirt. I know this, and this, and this. I go, you got an A+, man. Some people go, I don't know what the fuck this is. I just like this shirt. But someone said something about something. I go, yeah, there's something there. So what goes into it is a lot of thought and a lot of us really, you and I know this, man, which is, and I will not rip on it. I love it. I love seeing bands. The whole premise behind our shirt design started with, remember when there would be bands that would have like the Black Flag bars, but it would say Blink-182 on it?
Yeah.
Do something like that. It's a throwback reference to Black Flag, but it's changing the name of your band. We wanted to do that, but so far fucking out there that when we have a song or we have a shirt that's Keep On Big Truckin', and it's a crossover reference between Grateful Dead and Coal Chamber, we're playing with a different deck of cards, man. And our fans, I don't know, man. I know a bunch of people who bought that shirt and wore it to the Grateful Dead show at Wrigley Field or other places, and then a bunch of people that bought it for Coal Chamber. What we're getting at is this, which is ethically, or sort of mission statement-y, we're trying to take people from different walks of life and bring them together under our umbrella. That's it. If you listen to our band, you hear that. You're gonna like, if you like aggressive music, or aggressive metal, you're probably gonna like us if you have an open mind. You like noise rock, again, like the Bleach era Nirvana, you're gonna like us too. A couple other fucking twists and turns, but that's what we're trying to do, and that's what we do. We do it very well, I believe.
Yeah, I mean, my all-time favorites have to be probably the one that looks like it's an ICP Joker's card design, but it's Bozo the Clown.
Yeah.
The Satanic Falcon with the station wagon, because you pretty much have to see the third Pantera home video to even get that reference.
Sure, most definitely.
And then
I love both those too.
Yeah,
and
the Melissa one is great too. Just the Tinder profile where it's Melissa, and then one of the buttons is King Diamond's face, and one is a peach. And there for a while, I would there's been like a few dates that I went on when I was living in DC where I used that shirt as a personality test. Because like, okay, if they understand this, then maybe.
I have to go back in time. 2 things. One, you might have missed something, which is in the Melissa shirt, which I love as well. First of all, Melissa is the name of Melissa is a name that's associated with our band. I believe in every Something Is Waiting record, I always throw in the word Melissa in it some way. It's a reference to that shirt has the King Diamond, which is obviously a reference to, Merciful Fate, Melissa, that whole thing. And then the peach is actually an Allman Brothers reference, which is for their song Melissa. So that's another one. And I absolutely love that shirt. But there was a couple that I hope they're married at this point. Some dude wore our shirt to a bar. It was in Indiana, and they ended up sparking up a conversation because she couldn't understand his shirt. He had to explain it. He had like mansplained it to her, and then they're going on a date like the next week, and now they were like dating. And I was like, oh, That's a conversation piece that is really, I really enjoy that. Our shirts are kind of like a little bit of a trip, an experience, and it sucks because if you're not on the fucking level and you're just rolling up and you go explain that to me and you don't know any of these bands, this, and this, I'm just gonna say I don't know where to begin, dude. I'm sorry about that, but for the most part, everyone comes in with a palette of these bands that we embrace. We have a tendency to embrace with our artwork are bands that if you're into heavy music now, it formed your DNA a lot as a fan. They're mainstream bands. You know, whether everyone liked Cold Chamber back in the day, I still love that band. If there's a Metallica shirt, or we did a Megadeth one recently, like who doesn't like those bands? If you're into heavy music now, you had to have your time with those bands at one point. You had to go for a ride through the Mustaine catalog, you know, and you know all the hits, and you had to see them, and then you might have branched out of it, but like you still know what happened because they were the most timeless songs from heavy metal. So we always reference that. So a lot goes into it, and it's getting the waters are getting muddier because now we're really starting to push the envelope with these shirts. We have one coming out, which is a reference, or not. I'm not even going to tell you what it is, but it's coming out, and it's a exclusive shirt that will be wrapped up in our vinyl package if you choose to buy that. You could buy the vinyl, you could buy the vinyl with the shirt, but it's only going to be for that, for anyone who buys the LP. And that one's pretty awesome, I believe. But it's another fucking out there reference. And you know, some shirts don't resonate with some people, and we don't care. It's going to resonate with someone, and we're stoked with that.
Yeah.
Not every shirt's for everyone.
I just randomly had it run through my mind because I was talking to Aiden the other day at the Black Cross Hotel show that we were both at Livewire, and for whatever reason we were talking about the old Pantera shirt that had like the pot leaf on it and said "Bad Company did it, so can weed." Neither of us could like figure out what that. To this day, I don't know what that means, and we were talking about that.
Give me the exact quote about it again.
Bad Company did it, so can weed.
So can weed.
Yeah.
I have to look at the shirt again. Maybe I'm missing something, but obviously Bad Company, it references the band. I got to see the shirt.
Yeah, because the word weed, it's like the WE is filled in, but the ED is just the outlines of the letters. So it's Bad Company did it, so can we, but then it's also Bad Company did it, so can weed. And I've never understood that since this day. Like I know that Bad Company is the band, but I don't understand the shirt itself.
How about there being bands, man, that just, particularly from that era, that really, if it was an inside joke, if it was something that they just did it and they wrote it, and then their fans ended up embracing it, as opposed to saying, hold on, like this isn't what the record label said would be okay, or you know, it was just free thinking, and if you like it, you like it.
Yeah, really cool. No, I wore that shirt for like 3 years, and to this day I don't fucking get it, but I liked it.
Yeah, they had great shirts. I love I have a collection of about 400 vintage rock t-shirts, and I don't have that one. And yeah, I am bragging about that, but I take t-shirts very seriously. If you go to a gig, man, and you don't have good merch, I get it if you're an up and coming band, but there are so many bands that don't have it down, and I get frustrated as a fan. Even if I'm not buying the shirt, I just want to see good shit. I had a band from Philly come through called Boozawa who had a great shirt the other day, which said "Out of beer, out of here," and I'm like, got the shirt right away, loved it. And those guys are the shit. They are friends, and Ida and I were at that show. But it's yeah, I like seeing a good a shirt that's been printed well too.
Yeah.
And you know, that's just kind of it. But yeah, we have the new shirt come out, the new LP. And yeah, first order of business is getting our track out. I know you listened to our new song, and I hope you dug it. But there'll be new tracks that'll be dropping over the course of this next month. And I think everyone should take a listen to them. I really think the record is super well rounded. We can maybe talk about, you know, the recording process of it, but it came out really fucking organic and good. And I think that's very important. One of the things that was important to me at least is I like vocals to sound raw, period. And I like vocals to sound up in the mix. All right. If you hit both, I love you. If you're hitting one or the other, I'm all right with it. When you're buried in the mix and you have a fucking vocal processor to fuck out it and it's gated to fuck, that's where I start to get frustrated. And my vocals definitely have fucking neither of those, which is it's raw, and you could tell because it's kind of got that throwback style to what would be like the vocalists from the 70s, 80s, that whole thing. And then also it's not fucking overproduced and processed, and it fits very well with our band. Our band doesn't use any drum triggers. Iden's totally organic in his playing. I think that he'll probably reveal this in an interview, but there wasn't one drum punch on this record. What that means, like, it's everything he hit, and I think that's pretty fucking, that's a lost art too. And then Bill has a distinct way he wants to sound as well, and we did that. It sounds very, very close to, I think, what we present live as a band.
Yeah.
You're gonna be in store for that, and that's cool. And yeah, we're very proud of it. I mean, it's just if you like the first two records, you're going to love this one. You're going to, please jump on buying it right away, because I don't know, it might go, I think the pre-sales are going to come in pretty hot for this one. I really think so, especially when it starts kind of going around. And the reason we waited to get this record out here, we could have put out this record like 6 months ago. All right. But what happened was the vinyl plants were so backed up that we realized who our fan base is. And they're not short attention span people by any means, but if you buy a record from us, if we pre-sell you a vinyl, they expect to get it within 4 to 6 weeks. All right. Which is very, very common on a pre-order. It was getting to the point where bands were releasing stuff, and God bless them, and they were arriving like 11 months later. And I understood why they were doing it. They were trying to get a digital stir rolling, and they didn't want time to just fly by. But we said we want to do it where we're ready to present the vinyl. You buy the vinyl, and then it gets released digitally. So we could have, again, released this about 6 months ago and had like digital copies for sure, it on Spotify, and then CDs. But we waited for the vinyl. The reason the vinyl's been backed up is because the pandemic, certain things were not available or created or some shit like lacquer. And also there was a huge movement. There's been a huge movement of like artists like Taylor Swift and Riddell and stuff like this, placing these monstrous vinyl orders for like 80,000 pieces of vinyl. And that's daunting to a company where they're not going to turn down that PO because it's going to be a game changer for their company. But the bread and butter that was the underground scene has been backburnered. So we had to wait our turn. But now it's here. And Bill Fay came up to me in practice like 2 months ago, and he goes, when we saw the light at the end of the tunnel where someone goes, "You're gonna have your record soon," Bill's like, "We made the right decision. This was the right move." And I go, "You're damn right. I agree. I totally agree." And you're going to be able to stream tracks, buy our LP, and get it before you know it. And then from there, we plan on having a very busy year with shows, and particularly out of town shows. Not to say we're not going to play Chicago still, but it's really going to be, we started kind of really greasing the wheels with getting out of town a lot, and we really like the landscape out there. And it's time to get in some new markets as well.
Yeah. I mean, like with your history of booking shows in the Chicago area, how has that like potentially benefited you as far as making connections with other bands when it comes to potentially doing tours and things like that?
First thing's this, which is there's only a couple people you got to pay the cost to be the boss, dude, in the scene. And no one could really fuck with me in it because I've booked so many shows in my life. And I book shows for bands that ended up not being the flavor of the week bands, but are still here now because they were the good bands. Child Bite's a great example. I booked them a long time ago for the first time. That band's been around for a long time. And I remember being like a huge fan of bands like Coliseum when they first came out from Louisville. And I was one of the first people to kind of bring them through here a little bit. And then they ended up blowing the fuck up. And it goes from there. But if you're a band that's on the level that is good, that has their shit together, that wants to come through and legitly tour and not just come here to get drunk, I'm down. And I will help book you a show, and it'll probably be good. And I'm stoked to do it. And that does help us out a lot. But also, I think, and they should, I think sometimes having two things that match works. Meaning like, hey, we'd love to hook up or help out Eddie because he helped us out before, but also his band's good. And then you got both, okay? As opposed to his band blows, or they don't have a record, they don't have their shit together, or we don't even know if they're gonna fucking show up. And so it's good to have two things together. So it's mainly, it helps us about, it gets us to the dance, it gets us to the doorstep, but it doesn't get us the show. I think the us being a good band does. But it doesn't hurt matters. And then, but also when it comes down to it, I just think I take pride in bringing good bands through our city that bands wanna, or fans wanna hear, and that fans should play or be aware of. And if you're a fucking good band, especially if we met you organically on the road and you want to come through here, yes, the answer is yes.
Yeah, because I know, like, once a band gets past a certain level, tours are, more at the whim of, booking agents and things like that.
Sure.
But, still on that DIY level, you're making connections where, several bands might want to put a tour together and then just go about it that way.
Dude, right now, the music world, the underground music world is still catching up from all the tours that have been canceled since COVID. Money is really, really tight right now for the average music fan. They're going to these arena shows, they're going to these club shows that are twice the price than they usually would be. They're in any given night in a big city, it might be 3, 4, 5 amazing live shows. Add the summer to it, now you're competing with Street Fest season, you're competing with dude, I was on a boat yesterday for fucking several hours, like, outside shit for like the 2 good months of weather we have. Okay. So it's not easy to, we're a band that we might actually get to that point with this LP. We don't work with an agent. I've always been I booked every one of our shows. All right. And we get great shows rolling out of town and here, but it's getting to the point where bands might need that because the market is so fucking saturated with bands doing the reunion tour, bands getting back together out of nowhere, bands, whatever. They are going to the front of the fucking list. And then these up and coming bands, there's less of them because I think, frankly, a lot of them just can't get to the next point. That time we talked about, early on, Knock Mystium, that was when Stavros and I talked about this recently. If you were a rad band at the time, you got the shot. Because there were no reunion. We were trying to get a band like Botch back together. Now they're back together. Or like Brainiac just came through. If anyone is a Noiserack fan, Brainiac, their singer was dead or is dead. They had to like reform a lineup in order to get this shit on the road. That's commendable, but like these were bands that were not getting back together, and we were trying for years to get back together. I know Daughters had a resurgence, and now it's like grand opening, grand closing. But at the same time,
like back in that period that you're talking about, that's when a lot of that reunion stuff was kind of starting to happen. Because I remember seeing Scratch Acid do a reunion show like around then. Yeah,
that was. I'm referencing a time that was maybe about. This is built before I met you, man. It was about 8 years before that. And then it was Scratch Acid was kind of doing it. And also David Yow's with Scratch Acid and Jesus Lizard, they were ahead of the game with coming back. They were like, they sensed something and they got in. They got on the ground floor of it. There's still, dude, there's a litany of bands that I know are going to be wanting to do reunion shit, whether it be the hardcore bands, the any band that's, dude, if you farted on a 8-track in Europe back in fucking 1981, you're gonna get asked to do a reunion show. You know, it's shit. You know, the dumbest bands are getting back together, and they don't even have lineups. It's just like some dude who's like kind of there, and then these kids that are like 20-year-olds.
Yeah.
And it's like, this isn't a reunion anything. This is something that shouldn't be happening probably. But they're really cornering the market a little bit, and it's become exponentially harder for a band that just does it DIY style to kind of do it. But guess what? We still do it. And that's commendable. I'm just saying it ain't easy. It's a lot of holds. If people know what that is when you're booking a show, it's, hey, yeah, I got these holds in front of you. We might be able to do something. But are you cool instead of coming through on that? We're like the band that is, hey, we can't do the Friday for you. What about the Thursday? It's like, can we get out there a day earlier? Yes. What are we going to do on the Friday, though? You know? But as opposed to back in the day, it'd be like, rad band coming through on a Friday, where do we sign up? Or what I'm starting to see is, and this is a good direction, is I hope it goes in this direction, which is clubs are not willing to book like the five band bill anymore. So there's no combining shows. It's, say there was a band that was heavy-ish, that was on tour, and then something is waiting to want to come through. Back in the day, they'd be like, yeah, let's just combine and make one rad fucking show. Now it's like, no, this other tour is coming through. You got to find another spot. And by the way, this show's going to be halfway decent, so you might want to avoid our city altogether that night because we are kind of in the C market to begin with. You know, you gotta dance around that. But again, I'm not complaining about a damn thing because our shows are pretty right out of town. Could it be? Do I wish it was easier? The answer is yes. You know, but I think it might get a little easier with this. Maybe we will start working with an agent. I don't know. Someone's got to like fucking anything with us. It's like someone who has who's a climate controller in some type of scene or whatever has to roll the dice with us and say, I'm not gonna need to defend this band maybe as much as I think. Okay, cool. I'm gonna give this band a shot. You know, we're not the easy fellow.
The oversaturation thing is pretty ridiculous though. From like, I was looking at a handful of different shows that are happening in September. And so I know that you're a big Aerosmith.
How long did it take you, man? There's so many shows coming through in September.
Yeah. There's just like 4 off the top of my head that I can think of that I was interested in trying to hit up. So I know you're a big Aerosmith guy. Yeah. And so I was like, yeah, I'll probably try to hit that up if I've got a chance to, because that's the first band that I ever listened to when I was like 3. And you know, they still, I would put their 70s output and like 80s output up through Pump up against like pretty much any other band. Like, it's still fantastic. And then I think like a week from that, there's the Riot Fest, which I was going to try to hit up the Saturday of that because I want to see Queens of the Stone Age. And then I think that same weekend, there's Danzig, Midnight, and Behemoth, and Twin Temple. And then I think a week after that, there's Venom Inc. So it's just like not necessarily all the same audiences between all those things, but if you have like a broad appreciation for a lot of different, you know, genres of rock or whatever, there's a lot of options to choose from within that period.
With any fans of Queens of the Stone Age, I wish they would just admit that they like Foo Fighters. Like, that's all I gotta say. You know, something about Queens is, I think someone said, it might have been Iden Alexander, said something positive about the new Queens record. I just think that, and it was done very strategically, it was when Dave Grohl was trying to get propelled into this insane Bruce Springsteen level of rock stardom. There was probably a meeting held in like an office space with executives, and they said, we could push this guy. He's got the Nirvana legacy, which they ultimately ended up pushing into, now you go to any Target and buy a Nirvana shirt. All right. It wasn't like that until like about the last 10 years or so. And they said, okay, we could probably push this motherfucker into being like our next Bruce Springsteen. He's on a Labatt Blue commercial now or whatever's going on. But in order to do that, he needs some like tie to like the underground still, like street cred. All right. Because the Nirvana thing's only going to get him so far, especially if Foo Fighters takes more of a pop turn. And right around that time, isn't funny how he recorded the drums on Songs of the Deaf and was in the music video and everything. And it's because there was this like rad, like hard rock band coming out when the guy had knuckle tattoos and he wouldn't be afraid to like kick a photographer in the face. No matter, even if straight off 90 pounds dripping wet. And, he looks like the average dad that attends a brewery, like, on a Friday or Saturday night. And we act like, at least they think they look like that, with like the slick back hair and, again, the knuckle tats and, they sneak cigarettes on the side of the building, shit like that. But it's all like interest of commerce where there's that tie to like Grohl's whole thing. And it's funny because I saw that Queens of the Stone Age kind of did the same thing when they wanted to go a little more pop. Then what's his nuts started fucking around with Eagles of Death Metal, Josh yeah. Homme. And the funny thing is everyone needs a reality check of that band. I don't have anything against Queens of the Stone Age. Okay, if you like them, I fucking saw them on the first tour. I saw them on Rated R. So like I've been there and I saw them in Songs of the Deaf too. And there's some rad jams off that. And I know that we as a music society were so happy when we were able to sweep under that controversy that plagued him for like 10 months with his wife or whatever, saying he hit our kids or whatever the fuck. When we were able to sweep that under the rug and say, all right, there's some disinformation or misinformation, and it might not have unfolded like that. Ultimately, I agree that it probably didn't unfold as initially presented. But then Rolling Stone starts putting him in the fucking magazine again, like the next night. They're like, our number one seller is back that we could push in that world. But getting back, I totally forgot your initial question. Yeah. But getting back to it, yeah, motherfucker, there's a lot of shows coming up. And I will say that Aerosmith is the best band of all time, probably. I mean, I say that about a lot of bands, but dude, you could not fuck with early Aerosmith. It is so good. It is such a pillar as far as how I envision songwriting. And I told you, I'm at a really good place in my estimation with songwriting right now. And it's because I never deviate away from the good songwriters.
Yeah.
As opposed to saying, a lot of people saying, I used to listen to Aerosmith. I still listen to Aerosmith. They're one of my favorite bands.
Well, they're the quintessential American band.
I know. They are a band. They are our Rolling Stones. And, I like the Rolling Stones and all that. I love Led Zeppelin. But Aerosmith is really what I consider the oldest band that I really, hold close to my heart. And again, I love Zeppelin. I'll talk to you all day about that band. But our blueprint, a lot is Aerosmith rooted, man. The howling, loud in the mix, piercing vocal. I don't care if you want to, again, listen to this new LP, man. We have solos up the ass on this record. All right. And I could tell a William Thomas Faye solo apart from any other solo, just like I could tell a Joe Perry one. And that's important to me. It's not what you do, it's how you do it. And the best bands all have a trademark, not so much sound. It's like we're all playing out of fucking distorted amps. It's more about how you do it, the execution, the swagger to it. You can put frills on it. Like Bill will use some pedals and stuff to get his point across. Again, my vocals are my vocal. That's damn near, if I sing for you right now, which I won't, it's going to be how it sounds on that record. There's no gates and shit. It's not me singing out of a fucking megaphone or whatever. And I'm not ripping on Scott Weiland because he's one of my favorite vocalists of all time too. But that's me. Or I'm not singing out of a special mic. I'm singing out of a fucking regular mic. It's probably a higher end studio version of that regular mic, but that's what it is. And Aerosmith, yeah, I can't fuck with that band. I look at, man, in a way, our band, and I'm so happy about this, is in the most tasteful way. We have little love letters to bands, or there's a song on this record called Lick the Spoon that is, I got the idea from it from Kiss at what would be what was advertised as their last Chicago show when I was there. And I said, I want a song that's going to be kind of like me in a way writing about Kiss a little bit or saying thanks for it. It has no, it started out with that and it ended up going absolutely nowhere near that, which is kind of how I write. I have like an initial spark of an idea lyrically, and then it just ends up totally somewhere different. And I'm fine with that. But you know, you could hear again that Aerosmith take on shit. I mean, when I hear Aiden Alexander's drumming, me personally, I think Tommy Lee meets Brad Wilk from Rage. And when you tell me that, if you could tell me you could jam with a drummer that has those two guys, kind of, he's got his own style too. But if you say those two dudes, and by the way, he has his total own style going on, I'm like sold. Where do I sign up? Because they're two of my favorite drummers. So it's all about doing, you know, again, having kind of the sound that got you to the dance in a tasteful fashion, but you got to go on your own path eventually too, you know?
Yeah. And I mean, at this point, it's better to have a drummer that you can compare to Tommy Lee than it is to have a bassist you can compare to Nikki Sixx or a vocalist you can compare to Vince Neil.
I'm Vince Neil. I don't care what anyone says. You hear Vince, you hear a little bit of Vince in me, and I'm 100% proud of that. And also, Vince helped me with when everyone was shitting on him for his vocals going. I remember saying I need to start taking better care of my vocals and do vocal warm-ups or learn how to circular breathe or breathe better, and not just go up there after pounding a bunch of cold water or beer and then just, you know, retch my vocal out. I never really lost my voice ever, but I'm in a very good place with what would be called like live vocal performance at this point, because it was Vince Neil what not to do, you know?
Yeah.
I got in really good cardio shape. Unlike Vince Neil, who people like Chris Jericho say, hey, Vince Neil needs to train with me a little bit. And it's funny that he says that. But yeah, it's like be in shape, run around, learn how to breathe. And then before you know it, you're not a vocalist that after song 2 is, you know, you know, some vocalists out there, they play 2 songs, then it looked like they got kicked in the fucking chest and they had the wind knocked out of them. And vocalist is, I don't care what anyone says, drums are hard, man, but vocals are real hard live. Yeah. And there's a lot of ways that they could tear your ass up if you suck. And the good ones rise. But it's about putting in, I'm not a classically trained anything. I didn't go to Juilliard for this shit. All right. I went to, the school I went to was going to the gig and seeing it live, you know? What works, what doesn't. I learned how to use the stage with monitors and everything by being on stage. No one taught me how to fucking do it. And that is something that you could tell people left and right, like, this is how you should do it. But it's really about experiencing it for yourself.
Yeah. No, it's like, do you remember a decade or so ago, there's like a thing that you could buy that would teach you like how to scream. Like there was I forget the lady's name, but she had like a whole business.
I think it was Melissa something.
Yeah.
And like, a lot of good vocalists use it, whether it be Homegirl from Arch Enemy, Angela Gasso, the original one. I think that's her name. Randy was on it.
Well, there's so many people that don't like that. I think before that came out, they didn't realize that, like, even if you're doing like harsh kind of like, you know, throaty like growls and screams and things like that, you're still gonna like be a lot better off if you learn how to like sing in key and like learn where to like push your voice from, because you can't push it like straight from your throat, or you end up with like that shredded feeling in the back of your throat.
Not to mention, I would recommend to any vocalist, and they don't want to do it because I get why it sucks, is planking.
Yeah.
You plank, it activates your stomach muscles. That's what you're supposed to sing from. So you're singing from your diaphragm.
Yeah.
But most people go, fuck that, work. You know, I get it. Working out sucks. It's horrible. It's horrifying. All right. But that will help your vocal. And if you want to be an ambitious vocalist and not be buried in the mix, or let, you know, some vocalists will, you know, and that's cool too, where it's a song where it's not 80% of the song is no singing. And then when there is singing, it's very stationary. You're not running around stage. That's not the kind of vocals I want to be. I want to be where I want 80% of the song to have vocals over it.
Yeah.
Not an ego thing. I just like very vocally driven songs. And simultaneously, I like running around on stage. Therefore, I have now painted myself into a corner, and I got to find out how to execute this shit live. So did that. And again, I'm in a good spot with it, man, especially since our set list is going to get longer and longer because now we have all this new batch songs. We're playing all of it live. I guarantee that they're all really good songs that are going to over really well live. We still have to play the old songs. So we're going to have a litany of songs to play. And our set list, I see maybe, especially on a headline gig, getting to the 45-minute easy, probably close to 50 thing. We could easily play an hour.
Well, I've had you for about an hour and a half now. I know you've got to get to practice here soon. So
I do. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. Is there anything else you want to put out there?
No, please, if you're interested, if I piqued your interest in buying this record, just buy it. You're going to like it. Listen to it. Give it a whirl. Let us know what you think. Keep supporting the underground music, and then just go see rad bands and fucking kill it. As for you, my friend, your podcast fucking rules. I was been very entertained by so many, and you're a great interview. It makes fucking perfect sense that your podcast is killing it because your interviews are good.
Yeah, thanks.
Well, I want to show everyone this, which is I just got this tag team out of my closet, which is, if anyone knows this, it's the British Bulldogs. Still in box. Look up the price of this online. You'll see how much this is worth. I'm very pleased with this piece. Wrestling is king, and especially old school shit. So I wanted to show that.
Yeah. No, do you know if Stavros ever got that Dusty Rhodes?
No, he didn't. He definitely didn't, because he would have called me about it.
If it's still there, you should go grab it.
I'm going by his area. Maybe I'll tell him. Or no, I first of all, I'll find out if it's at his house. If not, I should go grab that. I do not have that in my collection.
Yeah, you should go grab it and just tell him that you bought it. I want to see either his reaction to that or his reaction to you telling him that you're changing the name of the new album to Motherless.
He knew what our record was called because he did the album.
Yeah.
And as soon as he said, "What's your album called?" I said it. He goes, "That's good." And I'm like, "Thanks." He liked it, and also, frankly, this is a Something Is Waiting trademark. We never go with our first album title, our first suggestion, because we had an album title that was, again, way too racy. And you get a couple beers of me, I might tell you it. But it was one where we're like, that's so fucking good. And then we had to say, no, it could offend some people. And we made the right-ish choice. But he did the album art. He hasn't listened to a track of the record yet, even though I sent it to him. I think it's either he wants to, he's probably afraid of it, but he claims he doesn't have good speakers right now. But what I'm getting at is, something tells me when he's starting his new band, which he is starting, he doesn't want to see what he's up against just quite yet. His band's gonna be good though, I guarantee that. And I know Motherless will be playing a gig sooner than later. I am sure. I hope soon. I will be at the first show.
Yeah. I'll be there too. I have no excuse not to be now. So
yeah, we'll probably carpool there, man. Besides that, all Chicago fans, August 14th, we'll see you at Empty Bottle, which is one of the best venues in the city. You know it. It's fucking the shit. We are so stoked for that. We plan on having a very, very busy year. So, I don't know. Give us a whirl if you haven't already. And if you have, you guys are the fucking shit. And we really hope you like this record. As the tracks drop in the weeks, let us know how you fucking feel about it. We're stoked on it, man.
And the new album, again, is Absolutely Something Is Waiting, and it's out on August 18th. You can grab it at Bandcamp.
Bandcamp, our label, Learning Curve Records. Spotify, the day it drops on the 18th. Don't expect it to be up there any sooner. And we're going to have track premieres in the coming weeks. Probably some more interviews. Hopefully, this will be one of the better interviews I do because it's just you and me, and I'm very comfortable with you. You don't seem like you're trying to trap me like other interviewers where they're trying to make me seem like a total fucking asshole or whatever. You know what I'm saying? They all do it, man. They all try to trap me. They all try to make it seem like I'm fucking a dick. There's a little bit, you know. I definitely wore my home in-home cardigan tonight for you guys, not my stage cardigan. So there's some, they know how I rock. But besides that, thanks again for this interview, man. It was great talking with you.
Yeah, thanks for taking the time.
Bye.
my